بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا متقبلا يا أرحم الراحمين وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My dear brothers and sisters, inshallah this video finds you all well in good health and faith. May Allah bless you and your families. We wanted to continue in our reading of the branches of faith by Imam Al-Bayhaqi with Allah's permission. Today's branch is branch number 70, and he says الصبر على المصائب وعما تنزيع النفس إليه من اللذة ومن الشهوة. So this branch is patience with what afflicts us from hardship and from what our nafs, our souls or ourselves are inclined towards in terms of pleasures and temptations. Inshallah we'll explain that further inshallah. So he mentioned some ahadith, ayat and ahadith from the Quran and the Sunnah. He says لقوله تعالى واستعينوا بالصبر والصلاة وإنها لكبيرة إلا على الخاشعين. Surah Al-Baqarah, that rely and seek help with patience and prayer, and indeed it is difficult except those who fear Allah. And he mentions another verse also in Surah Al-Baqarah وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون. He mentions give glad tidings to those who are patient, those who when are afflicted with a affliction or a hardship say, indeed we belong to Allah and indeed to Him we are returning. Upon them are the prayers of their Lord, or the salawat, the blessings of their Lord and His mercy, and those are the ones who will be guided. Then he mentions the hadith from Abi Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu, that from Bukhari and Muslim, that the people of the Ansar came and asked the Prophet ﷺ for some provision, and he gave them until he had nothing left. And then he told them, whenever I come into possession of something good, I will keep it for you, but whoever is abstinent shall be helped in this by Allah. And whoever refrains from asking or from seeking that provision except by through Allah, shall be helped in this by Allah. And whoever tries to have no need, God will make him have no needs, meaning needs of other people. So when we try to be independent of others and rely upon ourselves and our own work and our own hands to seek provision, and knowing that Allah is the one that provides, Allah will facilitate that inshaAllah. And then he continues alayhi salatu wasalam, and whoever tries to be steadfast, Allah will make him steadfast. And whoever tries to have patience, Allah will give him patience. And no one is given a gift, he says, and no one is ever given a gift which is better or more comprehensive than steadfastness or patience. So this is our beautiful hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that no one is given a gift, meaning from Allah Azza wa Jal, no one's given a gift in this life better than the gift of patience. Alhamdulillah. So we wanted to explain this concept a little bit further. We have two concepts in this branch, which is patience upon difficulties, and as we know, this is really what we're facing now with the current pandemic and the quarantine and the difficulties that we're all facing, the loss of wealth and life, etc. This is a good example of that patience, that we have to understand that Allah will make a way out for us, and Allah has a plan which is better than our plan, and with that should come a certain patience and soundness of faith, so that we can move forward. Now, of course, as we mentioned so many times before, that doesn't mean that we don't try to seek a way out from this hardship, but in any event, we don't lose hope, nor do we lose faith in the power and and mercy of Allah to give us a way out. Right? So that patience helps us root ourselves and in the work itself, and trying to find a way out of the situation, and knowing that Allah is in control and that everything that happens for a believer is good for him or her in the end of the day. So this is part of this concept, is that we have patience with whatever befalls us, and we say inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Indeed, we belong to Allah, and to Him we are returning. So whatever happens, we are Allah's servants, and we will go back to Him. Whether we are live easy lives and rich, etc., or we live difficult lives and are financially constrained, we belong to Allah, and Allah is in control, and we believe in Him, and that we are going back to Him, and He will reward us for what we did in this life from patience and worship and faith, etc. We have to rely upon Him Azza wa Jal. The other part of this is having patience with concerning what the soul or the self and nafs is inclined towards in terms of desires, and sometimes we would even say evil desires. The human being has the ability to do good things, and the human being has the ability to do bad things. Now, sometimes we have an inclination in us from our lower self, or the earthly side of ourselves, which desires pleasure, which desires enjoyment, which desires some sort of worldly entertainment, which in and of itself might not be bad, but what happens oftentimes is that the self or the nafs is inclined to those things at the expense of its religion, at the expense of worshipping Allah, meaning that Allah will tell us to do one thing, and our nafs will be inclined to do something else because of some material pleasure or worldly pleasure. In that case, we have to regulate ourselves, and we have to control ourselves, and we have to say, what Allah wants for me is better than what I want for myself. What myself wants for me is not as good and not as beneficial as what Allah wants for me. So if Allah is asking me to abstain from some sort of material pleasure in this life, His plan is better than my plan. He knows me better than I know myself. He knows what benefits me better than I know what benefits myself. So I should be willing to say, in my belief in Allah, is that He's right and I'm wrong. If I find myself, my lower self, my nafs, disagreeing with what Allah has for me, I have to have patience with that dilemma and realize that Allah is in control, and at the end of the day, He's the one who will, at the end of the day, He is the one whose plan is the best, and I need to sacrifice and submit myself to His plan and abandon my own plans. Right? This is the meaning of Islam. What does it mean to submit ourselves? What does it mean to live a life which is God-centered and focused on pleasing God before pleasing ourselves? Is that we look at everything in life and we ask ourselves, is this what Allah wants for me? Is this what is best for me in this life and the next life? Or is it something else? And when we find that Allah has given us a certain direction, or a directive even, to go in one direction, worship Him in this way, do these things and don't do these things, abstain from these acts and carry out these acts. We have to understand that those things, even if they do not seem as fun or as enjoyable or as pleasurable as some other actions, they are really what are most beneficial for us in this life and the next life. And this is really what the hadith, there's a famous hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in which he said that paradise is surrounded by difficulties and hellfire is surrounded by pleasures. Or as he said ﷺ. Now this is really what it means. It doesn't mean that Islam is difficult, or that Allah is intentionally making our lives difficult for us, but that ourselves, something in us wants just temporary material enjoyment, and we sometimes are inclined to that to the detriment of our souls, such that we will abandon what is really beneficial for us in this life and the next life for some temporary gain. right? And we see that with so many things in a worldly sense. We see that, for example, with things like junk food and candy and those sorts of things, that we know that they're not healthy for us in the long run, and they're not beneficial for us. And there's so many negative consequences from eating those things, but we enjoy them. They taste good. The sugar gets in the bloodstream and gives the person a certain material satisfaction. So we unfortunately sacrifice our long-term health for the sake of some short-term pleasure. And that's an earthly or worldly example, and there's so many spiritual examples as well, right? We oversleep or intentionally sleep in for Fajr prayer because it feels nice to be all warm and cozy and snuggled up in bed with a blanket, especially in the wintertime. There's a worldly pleasure that we enjoy, and we're not willing to sacrifice that for a long-term benefit, right? So this is what the Prophet ﷺ meant by heaven is surrounded by difficulties. It doesn't mean that Islam is difficult. And quite the opposite. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned that Islam was made easy for us. This religion has been made easy for us. And he continued in one famous hadith that the person who intentionally tries to make it difficult on themselves or go to extremes in the religion will not be able to do so, and they will be overwhelmed. So we should make things easy, and the religion itself is easy. It doesn't mean it's effortless, and it doesn't require effort from the person. We have to take action and have a kind of steadfastness in establishing the faith. But the faith itself was not made extreme or difficult for the believer, such that they are not able to carry out its commands and prohibitions without extreme difficulty or anything like that. Alhamdulillah, Allah has made this religion easy for us. But we have to have a certain steadfastness and patience when we find that our nafs or our egos or ourselves are inclined to one thing and Allah is asking us to do something else. We have to be willing to be patient with that and sacrifice that which our nafs desire, that which the self desires, and abandon that for what Allah desires or what Allah wills for us, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Inshallah, we hope Allah blesses you all to see Ramadan in good health and good faith. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to unite together as brothers and sisters to worship in His house. آمين يا رب العالمين. وصلي اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.